All right, it's Friday, and I want to talk about my week and some things that have stuck out to me, or some things that have felt notable for me this week. Typically, or over the last several months, my weeks have followed a very similar cadence with work, run club, some social stuff, training. A lot of my schedule is quite structured and set. But this was an interesting week. There are 3 things that I wrote down on my phone a few days ago that I wanted to talk about. So hopefully I remember what I wrote down. Firstly, I want to talk about something that stressed me out a little bit this week. And that had to do with confronting my coworkers. So I don't know if you've seen any of my other videos, but I work full-time at a nonprofit that serves people with autism, and I'm essentially a teacher. My official title is managing instructor, but really I do a lot of different things. Like, teaching is not what I do all day, every day. I teach several classes, but I also assist in the classroom. I do a fair bit of lesson planning. Well, so actually for most of the work week, it's teaching, assisting, and administrative stuff, right? Like doing notes, some lesson planning, that kind of stuff, meetings. So on our team, we have 2 managing instructors, myself and somebody else, and we have about 4 support staff and 4 assistants, and 5 assistants, and 4 of them teach as well. Anyways, I have supervisory responsibilities. So part of my job, or part of my job description, is to supervise, and with that comes confrontation, right, when necessary. And for most of my time with this nonprofit, it's going to be 2 years in December. So for most of my time, well, for a lot of the time, I actually wasn't in a supervisory role, so I didn't really oversee that other employees. But I do feel like for most of this period of time, our team's been pretty stable. We've gone through quite a few different iterations with people coming and going. But recently, over the last few weeks, I feel that there's more tension amongst our team, and maybe some resentment building up towards certain staff, because we've observed repeated patterns of behavior that are detrimental to the team, right? Being on your phone in the classroom, for example, or showing up late repeatedly, not taking accountability. And this week, so when it comes to confronting coworkers, I really don't do that much consistently at all. Our team, like I said, our team's very solid, and since I got promoted to one of the lead instructor positions, we've been very solid, I feel. But within the last few weeks, I have felt a slight fissure, if that's the right word. There's starting to feel or see some cracks, metaphorically speaking. And last week I had to talk to one of our coworkers, who's quite good at his job. I had to talk to him about being late. And this week I had to talk to him again about being late. And it's kind of uncomfortable bringing up this stuff, you know? It's, for me, I do tend to veer towards conflict avoidance, I think, but because I'm in a supervisory role, I know that the right thing to do is to confront an employee, especially if another one of our employees is taking issue to something that they're doing. And this is kind of the case. Like and if you're a supervisor, you probably know this. You can't be everywhere all at once. You can't monitor all the employees all at once. So you miss things, right? And in both cases, another employee came to me and was like, "Hey, I've noticed X, Y, and Z is doing this, or they showed up late again. Just want to let you know." So when that happens, it's my responsibility to address it, right? As the person who kind of has the authority to do that. At the same time, I feel like our team is I feel like we're quite open with each other, and despite there being a difference in our titles, I think our work environment, we try to make our work environment as egalitarian as possible, right? Or at least we try and embody that, if that makes sense. Anyways, so I had to have a few conversations this week with a few coworkers about different things, right? Being late, being on their phone, and it's a little bit stressful when other members of the team are being affected by this negatively, and for me to try and have to maintain the peace but also not let it affect me is a challenge. And what also was a little bit frustrating is that one of the employees who I had to talk to just didn't really take much accountability and was kind of defensive and had excuses and didn't really own up to his actions, right? So that can make it difficult as when you're as a team member, right? When somebody one is just not pulling their weight or slacking a little bit. So yeah, it's a challenge for me to have those conversations because part of me almost feels bad, but I also know that there's not I really shouldn't feel bad because we're trying to maintain these high professional standards, and there should be a consistency, right, with all the team members when it comes to this. You can't really control what anybody else does. You can only kind of control what you do. And trying to stay even keeled and balanced emotionally and not let negative situations deter you too much is important. Anyway, so that was something notable from the week, just having to kind of confront a few employees or coworkers, a little bit more than usual. Secondly, something kind of interesting this week for me was that I didn't listen to music at all when I was driving in the car. So typically I always have something on a Spotify playlist, shuffling whatever music I usually listen to. But this week I haven't listened to music at all in the car, so all the car rides have been pretty silent. And I've gone through phases like this. But a lot of times, I won't listen to music driving to work in the early morning. But then when I'm tired, it's more likely that I put music on to kind of try to keep me awake while I'm driving back from work or driving home late at night. But this week I didn't even do that either. I guess there's still another day. There's tomorrow to find out or tonight to find out if I'll break that streak. But even driving back from work this week, I haven't listened to music in the car. And it's kind of been nice because a lot of times I think it just helps. It's just an autopilot thing, or it's nice to have something semi-distracting you while you're driving, so you don't necessarily have to think too much or whatnot. But music, so I went back to an open mic this past Tuesday, that I used to go to all the time, and I definitely proved that I've outgrown my old self, or I've outgrown that part of me that used to always go to open mics. I did not really feel moved at all. There was just a wall of emotional numbness, I think, as I was there. But it was good to catch up with a couple familiar faces. Probably not an event I will attend anytime in the near future. It's interesting, right? When you kind of outgrow past versions of yourself. And sometimes it's better to just shut the door on the past in that regard. Lastly, I want to talk about, I'm trying to think of the last point that I'd written in my phone. I forgot what it was. Shoot. Talked about confronting coworkers. Talked about not listening to music in the car. And, it was, sorry, outgrowing your old self. That was the last point, I believe, that I wrote in my notes app. Yeah. So this video might not have been the most organized, but if you've watched or listened, thank you. And I will probably be back with another video next week.